First, I want to go to Conor Wilson, who's defence commentator for the Daily Express, former Army captain who trained with Clifford and has a fascinating piece in today's Daily Express. Conor Wilson joins me now. Thanks for coming on, Conor. What do you remember of Clifford? Morning.
Morning, Nick. Until this event, not a lot. He was just another recruit. And I think the most chilling thing about Clifford is just how entirely unremarkable he was. He was mediocre in every sense. Um, he was an insecure, immature young man, but not too dissimilar to many young men that we see in society every day. And that's the scary thing.
You write in the Daily Express that you've been sort of going back in time in your mind to see whether there was ever a clue or whatever there might be of a degree of barbarity or evil. Just tell the listeners a little of what your piece says in the paper today.
There seems to be almost a sense of guilt. Ultimately, as his troop commander, I'm the one that signed him off as being ready to join the field army. Now, to be a British soldier, there are a set of values and standards which Clifford clearly does not demonstrate, and he does not deserve to wear the uniform that he wore for a very brief period of time. So it almost feels like these people that do and commit such depraved acts, there must be a telltale sign. There must be an inkling of evil that is apparent. But what I realised is the scary thing is, one, there isn't. Men commit violence against women all the time. 1 in 12 women last year were subject to violence from men. So this is ordinary, and this is committed by ordinary people. But the second degree thoughts with that is it's not on me. It's not on the victims. It's not on anybody else but Kyle Clifford for what he did. And I think to start to blame yourself or to blame others or look for other things is to sort of give him an inch of kindness that he doesn't really deserve.
Conor, lastly, did he mix well with the other recruits or troops or whatever one calls them?
Yeah, we never had any issues with him in terms of fitting in. Now, I would see him obviously as his boss. Potentially, people act differently when I'm there, but we never had any issues with him with the troops in his troop. We never had any issues with the other recruits in other troops, and he seemed to be relatively well liked.
All right. Conor, thank you for your time. Conor Wilson was a captain in the Royal Army Medical Corps. He's defence commentator for the Daily Express. He has a piece in the paper today. He trained Clifford at the Army Training Centre in Pirbright. Now, what of this influence from Andrew Tate? Also, what of the judge ruling that we couldn't report it, or the jury couldn't hear it. Here's a little of Tate's work.
If I have responsibility over her, then I must have a degree of authority. For the same reason, if I have responsibility over, and everyone's going to lose their mind, it's an example, it's only an analogy. If I have responsibility over a child, I have to have some authority. You cannot be responsible for something that doesn't listen to you. You can't be responsible for a dog if it doesn't obey you.
As soon as most women encounter any kind of problem, the first thing they do is turn to a man. Their man, their dad, the mechanic, the police, a man. If you actually put a woman in front of a problem and go, no man, it's a mental breakdown.
Aisha Ali-Khan is a human rights activist and teacher. What is fueling the support for someone such as Tate, do you imagine? Good morning.
Morning, Nick. Gosh, that clip just makes my blood run cold. Andrew Tate talking like this, and there's so many other clips as well, by the way, Nick.
Well, there's some we can't play, you'll be aware, of course.
Absolutely. But this idea that women are possessions, that they need to be controlled and possessed, and they cannot have free will and they cannot choose to leave you. You have to treat them like a dog, literally, what Andrew Tate what we've just heard from him. And I think there is this rise of men, and I was having this conversation last night, Nick, and it's actually really something that my friend said just stuck with me, and I thought about it this morning. We've got this pity party that's going on, and obviously we've seen a lot of it with the Andrew Tate, the brothers going to America now, they're leaving, and it's all we're innocent, we're the victims, look at us, poor us, and it resonated with the reaction of Kyle Clifford when he was being interviewed. He was sobbing. He was sat there sobbing, but for himself.
Even this is the interview with the police, just to clarify, yes.
Absolutely. Even in the suicide note that he left, it was all about him, not one single mention of the 3 lives that he'd just taken or the impact he'd had on the family. So this is another thing that we're seeing, that there's no accountability. The men feel that they are the victims and that they're hard done by, and somebody has to pay for that. And this is where this whole path is leading to this violence, just violence against women,
Is it
horrible
in the case,
violence.
Aisha, do you think that if you come from hopefully a well-balanced family and you've got a loving mum and or dad or siblings or whatever, is it the loners who are going for this? Who is it that latches onto these vile messages, Aisha?
There's no guarantee that you are going to, if you come from this wonderful picture perfect family background, then you're going to turn out to be the same. And your previous guest Conor mentioned that this when what he remembered of Clifford was he was nondescript, he was mediocre, he was a nobody remembered him, and this is where the danger lies, because these men look so normal, and there's no guarantee that you could have a wonderful upbringing and this is what you could turn to violence, or you could have a really broken upbringing and be a perfectly happy family man, be a perfectly happy person. So there's no guarantee how somebody's going to turn out. What we are seeing is the last 10 years or so, the violence against women, the online misogyny. It's easier to hide your thoughts now, especially if you've got these chats online, you've got friends online, you don't have to interact with people, you can share, and this is what we found, didn't we, when the Pellico trial was happening in France, that there were Telegram messages and WhatsApp message groups where men were sharing horrific misogyny, text messages and fantasies and images and so on. So this is my point, and I made this on another call, where men support one another and then they normalize that behavior and then they encourage it. And this is the kind of thing that Andrew Tate has been doing. Some of the clips that are online are from 10 years ago, 15 years ago, many years ago, but they're constantly being replayed and they're constantly being used to justify the mindset of these men today. And
I must leave it at Aisha, only for time reasons. Thank you, Aisha Ali-Khan. You're a human rights activist and indeed a teacher who works with young men, boys in this age range. What is this malevolent influence that Tate has? And what should social media, remember Online Safety Day on Monday here on LBC, what should the social media companies be doing?